Pockets of resistance all around the planet. We've been fighting a long time. If you're listening to this, you are not alone. You are the resistance.
These shots need to get in everybody's arm as rapidly as possible, or we're going to be back in a situation in the fall that we don't yearn for, that we went through last.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
These shots need to get in everybody's arm as rapidly as possible, or we're going to be back in a situation.
These signals being sent through the poor and the underclass are growing.
Areas of growth. We also work with quite a few staffing firms, and they're kind of the first ones to experience that growth.
See that guy? That's me. My excuse for looking like this? I'm a writer.
Eddie, maybe it's time to let the writing go.
But just in case you think nothing ever happened to me.
Eddie Mora!
Hey! Tell me about this book. Well, how much have you written of it?
Not one word.
Well, I suppose I can help you with that.
You know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? This lets you access all of it. They've had clinical trials and it's FDA approved.
All right, just out of curiosity, and that's all. I was blind, but now I see. A tablet a day, and I was limitless. I now had cultural appetites.
Since when do you speak Italian?
I finished my book in 4 days.
I'd like to renegotiate my advance.
Math became useful.
From 12,000 to 2.3 million in 10 days.
I'm baffled by this guy. So, Eddie Mora, you do know you're a freak. What's your secret?
Medication.
Your powers are a gift from God or whoever the hell wrote your life script. I'll open up a line of credit for you. You'll be wanting a few toys.
How many of us ever know what it is to become the perfect version of ourselves?
What's the asking price?
12.5.
I'll take it.
Everything I have, I want to share with you.
What you doing, hon? You think somebody's watching?
My brain is skipping time. I have no memory of the last 4 days.
I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it.
Your powers are not earned. You're careless with those powers. Have you asked yourself what you're going to do when you run out? You'll die.
No one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking, I just count the hours.
There's no scenario in which you'd lead this life where you don't work for me.
No scenario. I see every scenario. I see 50 scenarios. That's what it does, Carl. It puts me 50 moves ahead of you. Worth the risk? What would you do?
Hey, what's up, family? What's going on, man? Hey, real quick, couple things. This video, I just kind of wanted to touch on some stuff, and I want this to be on YouTube. So I'm gonna keep it clean. I might put a little bit on here, but I really don't know. But first and foremost, man, I dropped the video. Things aren't as they seem. That's a key video, man. It's a key video, just because of what we discussed. Some of the material in there is good material. You need to know it. You need to know about it. But it's just good. It's good information. It's a good discussion. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can just have good discussions that put things in perspective. Now I'm gonna put some things in perspective for some folks once again. Put some things in perspective. Because we got these people that like, I'm not trying to insult people, but you're not using your intelligence. Your intelligence is where you're lacking. And I keep telling you, the reason you don't use your intelligence because you've been indoctrinated into the different parameters that's been set forth for you by the rulers of this world. The parameters that have been set forth for you by the rules of this world doesn't allow you to think outside the box because you've been in a box majority of your life. You're halfway awoke, but you're not awoke. You're not awake. Okay? Now, let me explain. I had some people coming to the comments, and they were saying, oh, ain't no such thing as aliens, and oh, it's just us, and you think we on a spinning ball and all this and that. Like, look, man, I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm not here to debate about what kind of platform we're on. That, to me, that is irrelevant to the whole scheme, the whole picture, okay, the big scheme of things. And the reason I say that, okay, like I showed you, if you watched that last video, man, I might put it in here. I don't know if I can, because if you notice that last video I put up, man, it took forever to load. Now, sometimes, guys, you got to understand, I'm just like y'all. I want my videos to drop the same exact day. I would drop it in the same hour. When I used to do videos, my videos used to drop within the hour. Like, I could put a video together, put it up on YouTube, boom, it'll be ready, available in an hour. Then the processing crap came, which is basically them going through your video, screening it, looking for certain words, keywords and stuff. They got algorithms, they got AI bots and stuff. They got different things that they run your stuff through, all right? Especially on YouTube, okay? But the point of the matter is, man, I had put that video up, and it took a while, and I'm like, man, why is this video taking so long? Why is the video taking so long to load? I loaded that video, guys. I re-rendered it. Okay, I changed formats. I reloaded it. I loaded on another platform. I loaded on 3 different platforms. Okay, I loaded it 3-4 different times, and it was not working. I said, something's not right with this video. I went in, I looked at it, tried to edit it and stuff. I'm like, something ain't right. It's just not loading. It didn't make sense, man. And it's weird, because this is the first time I really seen this kind of action, to whereas I could load a video up 3 times and there was no explanation. It went all the way up through to the processing part. It got to the 33%, and then it just froze. Like, they weren't going. No, it said server, waiting for a server to pick it up, but a server wouldn't pick it up. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So mind you, I had you guys all set up for the premiere or whatever, and we was waiting on that, and it just wouldn't come up. It wouldn't start loading. So I said, man, something is not right. I came back, I redid it, kept on doing the same thing. I said, one of 2 things is going on here. Either, and you got to understand, guys, I tell you this all the time, things aren't as they seem, okay? The people that are put in place, guys, they've been put in position to keep the information hidden from you, to keep some things out of plain view, okay? Like, a lot of the people that run these platforms and things, I'm telling y'all, people that run these platforms and things, they are gatekeepers in themselves. They make sure certain information don't get out. They let you say so much. Some of this stuff you cannot say, okay? Some of these things that's running these platforms and things, they ran by these different elite groups. They ran by certain companies, organizations that's all tied in with the 13 bloodlines and everything else. Okay, so you can put together a video or something, and they have an obligation not to let certain information get out. They have an obligation to go through stuff. They gonna make it seem like, oh yeah, we for it. Because I told y'all, guys, I had put stuff on BitChute, and I had put stuff together, man. Initially, like I said, same thing with YouTube. Initially, when my videos started, everything be cool. But by the time it get to, like, I get to a 4th, 5th video in, all of a sudden they start messing with me. Okay, and I'm telling y'all, it's because the information that I've been putting together has been so on point. I'm trying to tell y'all that it's dangerous. And they don't want people putting all that information together. Think about it, man. Who else have you seen that's connecting the walk with the other beings that's been here? Who else have you seen that's been putting that together and showing you, okay, these people telling y'all to take this, and this is what they are? Who else have you seen? I'm trying to tell y'all, man. And it's not that I came up with it. I showed you the folks that pointed this out that was going to happen 20, 30, 40 years ago. I showed you. They was saying, look, these beings, they here, they about to do this, that, and the other. I was like, and I was a skeptic at first too. I was like, man, ain't no dang beings in there. Then I started seeing them. Then I was able to have that keen eye to notice them when I seen them on the news. And I seen them, they saying, hey, y'all need to take this, y'all need to take it. I'm like, hold on, man, that's them same things. You see what I'm saying? But ain't nobody else putting all that together. Man, I really wanted to try and get in touch with some of these truthers that's out here speaking like, hey, they're hurting people with the walk, and hurting people with the walk. And talk to them like, guys, duh, Like, we know that. Let's get to the root. Like, why ain't nobody addressing the root? We have a real life enemy here that's harming, trying to take out the human race. Like, literally. Remember, what Phil Snyder said? They were going to do what? Depopulate and enslave. What are we seeing? People dying and people having mind chips and MK Ultra and frequency to enslave their minds. These people can't think for themselves or nothing. That's why I told you in that last video, man, I said, we see the depop happening, but who's put together the fact that people are mind controlled now? You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't have one without the other. And I tell y'all this all the time. When I go back and I talk about the whistleblowers and stuff like that, I say, the whistleblower said one thing. If that stuff comes to fruition, then we have to look at the other stuff that they said. And we have to be able to put it together. So if they said that they was going to do depop, boom, that's happening. And they said it was going to happen through biochemical weapons, boom, that's happening. What else did he say? They was going to do enslavement. Oh, boom, that's probably happening too. How is it happening? See, people expect enslavement to happen with somebody having chains and stuff attached to their ankles. That's what people, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, people don't think, man. They don't think. And that's the reason why I'm dangerous and y'all are dangerous, because y'all understand how to think. Most of y'all. It's some people out here that still don't think right. Okay? And I'm trying to explain to y'all why, like, what you saying don't even make sense. People say, ain't no other beings here. I just showed you video after video of other beings here. So let's get past that part. Now, what are you saying about these beings? You saying these beings don't exist? You saying these beings ain't real? You saying that that's made up? Like, I'm making up. I'm just going around making up all these fake videos of beings with their teeth and mouth and eyes and stuff shifting, facial deformities. I'm just making this up, right? So let's get past that part. There are beings here. Where the fuck are they from? Okay? Where the fuck is all these dang beings from? There's no space, right? Okay, I give you that. Let's say it's no space. But you believe in heaven and hell, right? So if it's a heaven and hell, then that's another damn dimension. Are you thinking now? How can there be a heaven and hell and not be another dimension? So heaven and hell exist on this plane? You see how stupid people are? Like, people don't even make sense. They don't even think about how their thinking does not even make logical sense. How you gonna have heaven and hell and not have another dimension? And not potentially have other beings in these dimensions? Guys, it's frustrating talking, like, look. Some people, man, they just don't get it. They just don't get it and they never will. A lot of people are significantly brainwashed and they're indoctrinated into this system of beliefs and control that has been implemented on this plane, on this 3D realm. Some people can't get out their own way, okay? Spiritually inclined is a real thing. It's also a consciousness, but you cannot have superior intelligence if your pineal gland is detached or if it's calcified, okay? Think about this, guys. They talk about adrenochrome and stuff like that. Well, adrenochrome is supposed to be secreted, okay, like adrenaline that goes through the blood and everything. There are some people that believe the adrenal. We don't know because we're not actually, dealing with the scientific aspect of this. Nobody's actually breaking it down, getting no child and doing this crap to nobody. But there's belief that the secretions for adrenochrome come from the pineal gland. Once a certain level of fear is induced, it will produce this adrenochrome, which is what they're manufacturing like that and distributing to these celebrities and whatnot, right? So this stuff is used by the elites and stuff like that. Okay, it's supposed to be like the most expensive drug and everything else. This is something that comes from that particular gland in your brain, the pineal gland. Pineal gland is also supposed to be a part of your ultimate level of intelligence. You can't just like think about this. Your brain is good for a certain level of intelligence on the physical realm. Okay, like mathematics, common sense. Well, I don't even know if common sense is common anymore. the wherewithal to know how to do stuff, to understand a certain level of processing of information, cognitive learning and stuff like that, all can be connected to the brain. Okay, also movement and stuff like that, nervous system, a lot of that stuff, right? But that's the surface level abilities of you as a human being. Okay, now as a spiritual being, how you gonna have spiritual power without some type of connection to the spiritual world? And to be able to be spiritual, you have to have a certain level of intelligence to have the intuition. Remember, guys, in the movie, and I might put a piece of that, I might put a clip in here, I might do that, Limitless, when the guy, he took the drug, and what did it do? All of a sudden he knew shit. He knew shit, right? He started being able to see the future, basically. Had intuition, knew what people was thinking. Where do you think that come from? You think that's just the brain power, your regular brain? How can your brain know what somebody else is thinking? Just your regular brain? It's impossible. You have to be telepathic. You have to have intuition. You have to have spiritual discernment. You got to be able to feel stuff spiritually. You have to be connected with the atmosphere. You have to be one with the universe. You cannot do that with a regular brain. You have to have a spiritual lens. Is this stuff making sense, man? Is it making sense? So, like in that movie, he started to have all these abilities and stuff, which is basically he just opened up his third eye. I put that song, man. It was a song in front of one of, I think the guy was N.E. Chopper, and he was talking about you're not living until you open your third eye. You're not really living, which you're not. You can't live and can't be whole if you've been cut off access to your brain. And I said this before. Remember, they always say, "Oh, humans only use," what they say, 30% of your brain, something like that. It's probably less than that, because the ultimate power rests in your pineal gland. That's why you don't have most of the access to your brain. And a lot of people, like I said, they can't put this together. They don't have the discernment to even understand that level. If that makes sense. They don't even have the discernment, the spiritual discernment, to understand that level of thinking. Their mind just don't work like that. It ain't gonna work like that. It's like putting the process of information, as far as putting all this stuff together about how this stuff then came to this point, connecting dots. People can't see, why would they do this and why did that happen, and boom, like simple ass shit. People can't put it together. It's because that, like I said, and so think about this, guys. Like my videos right now, they tend to reach between 15, 17,000 people. That's pretty damn good considering how much censorship that I'm dealing with, right? But of those, do you honestly think that you're not gonna have at least 4 or 5 people that come in that the brains or pineal glands are completely calcified? Completely calcified. Okay? You're going to have some naysayers. You're going to have some people coming there that don't want to hear you. You're going to have people coming there that took the walk and feel messed up. You're going to have people that had access to the spiritual, their spiritual connection to the universe and everything. You're going to have people that had it, that lost it. That's going to come in there and they're going to be feeling messed up. And they're going to, you know, they're going to say bad things. They're going to even say things because they don't think the same that they used to. Like I told y'all, man, when the stuff first kicked off, I told y'all, people that I knew that were like strong, like that they were anti-walk. They were like, I ain't messing with them. And then they made them take them tests, them pop quizzes, God. Them pop quizzes, right? People took them pop quizzes. And after they took them pop quizzes, I told y'all, man, a lot of them folks went and took the walk. They went and took the walk. And I'm telling y'all, the stuff that they put in there, the Magellans and things, hey, them things had an effect on people. And they known to have an effect on people. This ain't something I'm just making up. This is a real thing. Them things went in people's brains and turned them to go do stuff that they wouldn't do. Mind control, mind manipulation. This is the stuff they've been working on forever. Okay?
Well, have you ever felt that someone was watching you, but there was really no one there? What if someone really was watching? Well, in tonight's special assignment, Ross Blackstone introduces us to Northern Californians who say the government is monitoring their every move, reading their thoughts, and controlling their minds.
It's an entire program. It's a stalking, harassment, surveillance, torture.
Marianne Stratton says she is a walking human experiment.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several valley residents who say they're victims.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain?
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area, was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called gang stalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices, and what they'll call voice-to-skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, and I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
At this rally last summer, Stratton and others explained how the government monitors their thoughts through ultra-frequency radio waves sent by any energy source directly to the electromagnetic waves in their brains.
And like I said, they can tune it to any human that they want in this country, just like a radio frequency, an FM, like an FM station.
They say the waves can also control their minds and their bodies.
They can cause your heart to hurt, they can blast your stomach, they can cause your ankles to give out, they can cause your knees to give out. Whatever they direct it to, wherever they can direct the pain to, your body feels all of it.
Why? They claim the government is perfecting mind control technology to use in war.
And it's all a form of terrorism and torture to drive the targeted subject insane, to drive the human insane.
The government has confessed to similar operations in the past using LSD or hypnosis. Now, hundreds of self-proclaimed mind control victims say these documents prove it's happening again. Cheryl Welsh says the government uses radio waves to affect other people around her so as to study her mental reactions.
Wherever I go about in my day, people will spit, swear, blow smoke in my face, basically 100 insults a day.
Sounds far-fetched? Well, don't make up your mind just yet. Some say they have research going back more than 40 years, which says it's possible.
I've got the documents from NASA, from Federal Times, from back in the 70s, the DIA, talking about how they were going to use this microwave hearing to drive political targets crazy.
Welsh is also a law student at Lincoln. Through her organization, Citizens Against Human Rights Abuse, she shared documents she's gathered with hundreds of people around the world. Documents like this from the United Nations.
It talks about the electromagnetic weapons, and the Russians wanted to ban the weapons.
Welsh is not the only one. In his latest book, Earth Rising, renowned author and speaker Nick Begich cites more than 30 patents that show mind control is possible by using light, sound, or electronic fields. Begich used this infrasound device to demonstrate on me.
I can hear it when you press it to my skin, but not when you take it off.
Right.
So that's sending the signal through my skin.
Through your nervous system, right into the brain, and the brain is decoding it. And so it's almost like it's right in the center of your head.
And you can do that even if you weren't touching my skin?
Not with this device, but if I were using a microwave carrier at a distance, we could achieve the same thing.
He says the sound could then be used to control my behavior, and the waves can be sent through any energy source, radio towers, indoor lights, especially the internet. It would be difficult to target specific people like Orr, Stratton, or Welsh.
To target an individual, you really need some line of sight, and you'd need to use something like a microwave carrier.
But he says people can be controlled en masse. The question then is, has the government used the technology? Begich says yes. He believes the U.S. sent anxiety signals to get Iraqis to surrender.
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards. In Johnson Valley, a Freedom House just opened to help people who believe they are being targeted.
To many of you who find yourselves the object of covert harassment, that there is hope and that you are not alone, and that we are striving to find legislation and we're working towards freedom for all.
Derek Robinson leads a national group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
And he also told us how.
Most of it is delivered by microwave, and I believe it's satellite delivered, whether someone is on a remote location using a laptop or next door using the desktop.
Bond says neurotransmitter chips that run off body electricity have been inserted into some people.
And they assign cell phone numbers to them. The cell phone numbers are then run through a computer, and a computer translates your thoughts. This crime has been available to the military for 60 years.
Look, man, let me say this, because I get sidetracked. We gonna start going into all of this now. Like I said, the point of the matter, what I was saying, people don't use their brains. Now, let me break it down again. Like I said, there's other beings here. You've seen them, I've seen them. We know they exist. You've seen reports from ex-government geologists and everything else that told y'all they've seen these beings, they've dealt with these beings. The government has tried to hide these beings and stuff. Why? Oh, those was conspiracies too, conspiracy theories that they even existed. What was it, Roswell? The crash and everything, like people like, oh, this stuff didn't happen. Like people still thinking like stupid. Okay, I keep telling you, if we supposed to be the ultimate, think about all the technology and stuff and advancements we done made as a human race in just the last 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, and that's with us having very limited brain power. So you got beings, and you know, far as back as even ancient Egypt, the engravings on the walls and things like that, that they had access to their pineal gland. Right? They had spiritual consciousness. They had powers that you probably would never even dream of. Okay? But for whatever reason, I guess civilization stopped there and people stopped thinking back then. And all of a sudden, human beings like us became the ultimate creatures, right? We became all-knowing, all-intelligent. And we, how many centuries removed from then? Do it even make sense? This is what I be trying to tell people, like, break it down again. Okay? You're tired of repeating this crap. People don't listen. If there was a race of beings here before us, how come they wouldn't have become more intelligent? How come? Like, the beings I'm showing you, they're obviously here. They've been hiding here amongst us successfully for a long damn time.
Trump arraignment yesterday. Watch his eyes. Watch his eyes. Definitely not normal. There were a few of him there like this. Very obvious that we're in a spiritual or some type of warfare going on here for sure. Look at his eyes. That is not normal. Not normal. Can anybody tell me who he is? Secret Service? What was his purpose on being there? Because his eyes, something is going on there. Definitely. Trump arraignment yesterday. Watch his eyes. Watch his eyes. Definitely not normal. There were a few of him there like this. Very obvious that we're in a spiritual or some type of warfare going on here for sure. Look at his eyes. That is not normal. Not normal.
How are they able to do that? I showed you they on the news. They have circumvented all the levels of government and everything else. But we're supposed to be smarter than them. Please make that make sense. For you naysayers out there to say ain't no other beings here, this blah blah. Please make that make sense. You can't, right?
All right. Robert Dean has a list of credentials a mile long. He served 4 years from 1963 to 1967 at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers, Europe, the military arm of NATO. He was an intelligence analyst with a cosmic top-secret clearance.
Well, Don, it began for me in 1963 when I was assigned to the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe. I arrived in the summer of '63 and I was assigned to the Operations Division. I was further assigned to what we call SHOC, the War Room, the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center. And at that time I was given a cosmic top-secret clearance, which was and still is the highest level of security access that NATO has. When I was assigned to the War Room, I learned that a study had been initiated in 1961, and everybody was talking about it. They were gossiping about it. And the subject was UFOs, and that intrigued me a bit. When that study was concluded in 1964, and it was published, and I was still working in the War Room at that time, I had access to this document. I had a chance to read it, and having been exposed to it, I must tell you honestly that my life has never ever quite been the same. Because I read first-hand reports, verifiable NATO military material that indicated that the UFOs were not only real, but they represented something far beyond anything I had ever imagined before. When the study was concluded in '64, they concluded that there were 4 different groups apparently coming and visiting us. Out of those 4 different groups, one group looked exactly like we do, so much so that they could sit beside you in a restaurant, or in an airplane, or in a theater, and you'd never know. And that particular point bothered the military guys a lot. Point being that some of these people from somewhere could be walking up and down the corridors of SHAPE headquarters, or they could be walking up and down the corridors of the Pentagon. One day at lunch, a lieutenant colonel made the remark, he says, Jesus, do you realize they could even be in the White House? And there was a little forced laughter at that point, I remember, because a lot of us over the years have had some misgivings about the occupants of the White House. But the point I'm making is that the idea that aliens could be here in our midst bothered the military because...
So, aside from that, what kind of check, if we've been creating all these different, we got airplanes, let's say space don't exist, we got airplanes. Wouldn't those other beings have some kind of airplane by now? I mean, you only have about 2,000 years to figure it out. You can't come up with an airplane, but human beings can, right? Okay. You see how this shit don't make no sense? It makes absolutely zero sense. You got airplanes flying in the sky, right? You got underwater submarines that can stay submerged for I don't know how many months, years, whatever. You got cars and things, all made by human beings. We the smartest things around. But we ain't even the top of the food chain? How could something be out over smarter than us to whereas we're not even top of the food chain? You see how this stuff don't make no sense? It don't make no sense.
The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutcherson has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979, when he began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual ways. It has come to be known as the Hutcherson effect.
The objects you're seeing moving there is a form of levitation by translational movement, meaning that the objects become lighter and can float around. The heaviest being the barium cylinder that you see there with the two wires coming out of it. Tends to slide around on 7 pounds of its own weight. The physics of it is self-resonation of what they call ferromagnetic and piezoelectric barium titanate through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands of electrical energy going into this crystal. So the applications of this in advanced applications using free energy or zero-point energy to power it would be in propulsion technologies. This is a crystal converter unit that I made about a year ago to see if the principle worked, and indeed it seems to work to this day. The principles involve the Casimir effect and space charge type of barrier technology in semiconductors, and a jitter activity called zero-point energy that goes through time and space. The idea is to get the material inside this to interface with the jittering action of zero-point energy. And moving on to what they may look like inside, I actually bring out a piece here of this material, of common minerals and that, produced in a special way, and I take a reading here. And I should be getting a higher reading. I had a hot spot somewhere on here. I have here almost a half a volt, as you can see. As one can see, there's no batteries in this or anything else except just crystalline material with different configurations. And this is a steady state. It's always that, and has been tested up to a year's time and under stress tests also. So, which made me decide to then, of course, mount the same material in cylinders. Different cylinders, of course, there are different mixes in there, and I found that that some of the cylinders are not as powerful as this material here, or this very tiny one here. Actually, this has more power than this large artillery shell unit here. And what I want to do, of course, is to demonstrate it in the sense of it making actual power. That means to turn a small motor. Okay, I'm attaching this to the base here. Another lead at the top, and it should spin, which it does. So yeah, basically, this kind of material powering motors. Of course, it's a very small motor at this time, but scaled up in larger amounts of material can power up to several horsepower if needed.
Hutcherson hopes his simple shake-and-bake method of producing these crystal energy converters will attract investors who can see the potential of permanent batteries which never need charging.
Non-toxic, that will interface with zero-point energy in space and time.
Hutcherson's more dramatic experiments border on the paranormal and have generated more than just a passing interest from U.S. military research labs.
We've had about 750 demonstrations of levitation, translational movement, metallurgical samples falling apart, changing into transmuted unknown metals. Quite a variety of obscure types of effects, wood impregnated into metals, other objects in metals, monopole magnetic fields written up in many journals. Quite a host, or a Pandora's box, of different types of effects on the outer edge of
In this remarkable series of video clips shot by Hutcherson, we see what happens when he fine-tunes the electromagnetic frequencies aimed at target objects in his garage.
subatomic level, I feel that there is a dimension shift activated by very conventional electrostatic RF fields that are used in special leads that actually form a keyway that opens up another area of time and space that may activate the zero-point energy fields and interdimensional reactions, let's say, to gravitational waves and time waves of chronons, if you wish. Perhaps we're dealing in chronons and gravitons, which are maybe particles, somehow causing a distortion, which causes objects to simply break apart or pulsate in the center. Stainless steel bars can fall apart, or to become weightless.
Here, ice cream in a plastic cup. Finally, a 70-pound cannonball.
What is interesting and also frustrating about his invention is that he's using a combination of Tesla coil and Van de Graaff to produce a very disruptive and lifting experiments, which in one case, for example, actually lifts a 19-pound bushing toward the ceiling just from electromagnetic fields. Now, when we analyze that, we find that there's position versus time graph that we can plot, and also the velocity versus time. But when we actually analyze the acceleration versus time, it's an increasing straight line. So we're forced as scientists to admit that we have a third derivative effect, which, for my mind, actually lends itself to an anomalous new force, which I call hyperforce, because we have to take a derivative of that to finally get a flat, straight line, a constantly increasing acceleration. So the Hutcherson effect has been used as a benchmark for a comparison to many other high voltage propulsion devices. Electrogravity, in other words.
But even like I said, moving a step further, heaven and hell. If heaven and hell exist, then there has to be other dimensions, because heaven and hell would be another dimension. Right or wrong? Are we thinking now? So, where is God? Is God on earth? Is God here on earth? And if you die, you're supposed to go to heaven. Let's say heaven. But if heaven is the name of the place, what is heaven though? Like I tell you all the time, this is earth, but earth is what? It's a planet. You could say Mars. What is Mars? Mars is a planet. Okay? What is heaven? Heaven is okay, it's not a planet. We'll say it's not a planet. Then what is it? And where is it? Are we thinking now? It's gotta be another dimension. Right. Well, how many, see, this is where things get complex. Well, how many dimensions is heaven? Have you been there? So how do you know? You don't know, but you feel, and you feel strongly that heaven exists. And if you don't, people think, oh, you're an atheist. Okay, so who created you? How did you get here? You evolved from monkey. Who made the monkey? Okay, the big boom broke up the tectonic plates. And who caused and who did all this stuff? Who created this? Let me say, guys, you don't know how many dimensions heaven is, okay? You don't. But even the Bible, guys, I point out, people always try to, and I understand it. You're going to have your critics, people that don't understand it, haven't done the research, haven't looked into it. But there are passages, like I said, passages in the Bible that refer to the pineal gland, the third eye, being the ultimate light.
Exists a mysterious and wonderful connection between human DNA, pine cones, pine trees, the pineal gland, and light. Us humans not only share some of our DNA in common with pine trees, but some species of pine trees have been identified as the largest genome to be sequenced. Where the human genome has 3 billion base pairs, a pine species has been shown as having 22 billion base pairs, which means a pine species has more than 7 times the amount of genetic material. These pairs form sequences called genes that then direct the cells to make proteins. Indigenous peoples have used pine needles and pine bark for at least hundreds of years, and many people around the world continue to use and research the pines. Powerful beneficial compounds found within both needles and bark are why the indigenous have used these in the winter to support respiratory and immune function. The pine bark is what the Iroquois gave to Jacques Cartier's critically ill crew back in 1536 to provide the vitamin C that they needed at that time. Pine bark also contains compounds called oligomeric proanthocyanidin compounds that function as powerful free radical scavengers. These OPCs are known to positively influence hemodynamics, which is how homeostatic processes in the body affect the dynamics of blood circulation and cardiovascular function. Other species of pine are nature's highest source of phytohormones, brassinosteroids, and phytoandrogens. These compounds support hormone, endocrine, and adrenal function, without over or understimulating the human body. The unique molecular structure of these powerful plant compounds and others like auxins and cytokinins influence growth and the light response in plants, as well as trigger strong bioactive responses in the human body and stimulate the expression of genetic material relating to longevity pathways and innate immune cell activation. Pine pollen is nature's highest source of these phytohormones and contains over 200 other bioactive nutrients in it. The Mickey Mouse-shaped pollen grain is a single living plant cell, and the 2 ears capture air and help carry the pollen grain. The complex sugars, which are also known as polysaccharides, along with the strong antioxidants, protect the pollen's DNA against radiation and environmental damage while floating through the air. Once the grain lands on a pine seed, it must stay attached to the seed with its germination filament for 1 full year. Then a second burst the following year leads to the transfer of its DNA. Within the pollen, there is an abundance of amino acids, vitamins, minerals, phytoandrogens, and other nutrients that stimulate rapid anabolic growth through this second-year burst. While many pollens act as irritants for many people, pine pollen from the ponderosa and lodgepole species rarely reacts negatively with humans and have been used in traditional Chinese medicine for at least the last 2,000 years to support healthy reproductive and libido function in the human body. Pine pollen is also nature's highest source of DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, which is a sterone that both male and female hormones can be created from. This is commonly known as the youthing hormone and has been studied extensively for its relation to the brain, mood, outlook, and neurobiological phenomena. The scientific journal Nature published a shockwave paper showing what happens to the human brain when DHEA is present, and showed that compared with placebo, DHEA reduced activity in the amygdala and hippocampus, enhanced connectivity between the amygdala and hippocampus, and enhanced activity in the RACC, rostral anterior cingulated cortex. DHEA reduced memory accuracy for emotional stimuli, and also reduced activity in regions associated with conjunctive memory encoding. The implications of the results of this study showed that DHEA supported healthy activity in regions associated with generation of negative emotion and enhanced activity in regions linked to regulatory processes. In other words, the ability to process emotions in a balanced and healthy way was positively influenced. DHEA is also known as a strong compound in its ability to stimulate two important neurotrophins, known as nerve growth factor, NGF, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. The activation of these receptors regulate the healthy production of new neurons and the maintenance of existing neurons, and their axonal and dendritic connections. Ample production of NGF and BDNF in the human body supports the biological functions of increased mental and physical energy levels, muscle strength, immune system function, and metabolic functioning. Because the pollen comes from the pine cone, its symbolic connection to the pineal gland and spiritual traditions is fascinating to many. The Fontana della Pina at the Vatican shows a pine cone that many believe represents knowledge about the pineal gland. The pineal gland produces melatonin and helps regulate circadian rhythms and cycles of light based on photons hitting the retina of the eye and stimulating a sequence of various electrophysiological effects. The pineal gland has also been shown to have an intimate connection to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, HPA axis. Thus, pine pollen's unique combination of nutrients and phytohormones that functionally stimulate the brain makes this a highly prized and valued food source. One particular source of the pine pollen is raw, living, and doesn't have its cell walls cracked. In pine pollen nutrient preservation and maximization, it should be kept raw and alive for the most potency of the plant compounds. This particular source also uses an extraction method that isn't being used anywhere else in the world, and produces a vibrant golden yellow color that showcases the abundant living compounds within the pine pollen.
Okay, and there's also a passage in the Bible that refers to what may very well be a spaceship of some sort. I have to find it, man, and somebody else had pointed it out to me before, and I recollected it from my studies early on when I was younger, but I didn't understand it then. So I'm gonna try and find that passage though, but some of y'all might even know it. But either way, beside the point. What I was referring to, man, is that there's beings here, we understand that, okay? We don't know where the beings are from, okay? You got reports from geologists, government geologists and such like that have pointed out that they've seen certain beings, they've dealt with certain beings and stuff like that. There was deals that were supposed to be struck. There's people that come up missing. There's portals that are open and people are coming up missing in the parks. You got things that are using children like we eat eggs from a chicken. Okay, they're eating babies and doing all kind of crap. Okay, like I said, we're not the top of the food chain. You got these things that pretty much have circumvented our government. Okay, they're pushing things on us. Okay, they're trying to control this realm. Okay, we understand that this is a realm, this is a level, or whatever. This is the third dimension. Okay, there are other dimensions. Okay, people say, oh, this earth is flat. I don't give two shits whether it's flat or round. That still does not eliminate the fact that there's other dimensions. Okay, this is the 3D realm, third dimension. I've spoke to you guys about 4th, 5th, all the way up to 13th dimension. Okay, which we don't know which particular dimension God is at, or if he's at the top of this whole thing, right? We don't know, and we don't know how this whole thing is set up and how it works. And it's not to put down anybody in retrospects to religion or nothing like that, but at the end of the day, you on this realm, on this planet, and you was given a book, an instruction book just for you right here on this planet. Do the other planets, do the other beings have this book? Think about that. Do the other beings, do they have the same Bible that you read? And do they even abide by it? What does it mean to them? And you gotta look at this stuff, man, with an open mind. You can't look at it based off of what you've been indoctrinated to into this world. All of your thoughts and all of your ideas about how this world is relegated to the confinements of this world. And you're finding out, and I'm showing you that this world is not what you think it is. It's not everything that you've been told it is. You've been lied to. Why is it so hard for people that's been lied to displace all the lies that they've been told and start to look at this stuff with a whole different set of eyes? Why? Because they have been doing things to indoctrinate you, doing things to mess with your mind, to eliminate your spiritual ability, to eliminate your consciousness, your way of thinking, and to have you only concerned with the different things that is implemented in this world, which doesn't enable people to think outside the box. Free thinkers like myself and some of you guys, man, we are a threat to the system. Why? Because we understand that there is a system. First and foremost, we understand there is a system. We see the system all around us. This whole freaking world is a freaking system. Most people ain't put that stuff together yet. You can't just sit here and just go off of what you want to believe based off of what you've been taught to believe. Until you're able to totally free your mind and put everything in its proper perspectives, you're not going to be able to get past what the capabilities are of the people or the beings in this world, the different realms, the different levels. Not going to have a high level spiritual consciousness. None of that, man. None of that. And I hate to seem like I'm going on a rant, but it really just gets on my nerves to have people come in and talking and stuff. Look, if you don't believe the stuff I'm telling you, it ain't got to be everything I'm telling you. Don't get it twisted. But I at least need critical thinkers. Like, I need teams of critical thinkers. Like, we beyond whether we trying to figure out whether it's other beings. So we are so far beyond that crap. If you want to sit here and debate about that, you need to go to an elementary channel where you can just learn about cooking and baking cakes and cookies and crap. And just live your life like that. Go back to sleep. Okay? Because if you ain't going to open but one eye, then you need to go on back to sleep. Because you need to be able to see everything that's going on and really process information. But if you over here, you still trying to figure out whether it's other beings here or whether this is the only realm and everything, we way past you, man. We way past you, you know. And like I said, it's not a shot at anybody, but I'm gonna have to come down. I'm gonna have to come down off the stage for a second and talk to some people directly. Why? Because some people are so far confused and missing so much information, man. Because they just catching on. Some of y'all come. Like somebody said they've been watching my videos for a long time. They have never heard me mention the Galactic Federation, nothing like that. Guys, I've mentioned this in several videos. Do I mention it consistently? No. But I've mentioned it. And you have to go back, like people, the whole cloning thing. Like some people on here, it's people watching this video right now that don't believe in cloning. Don't believe that they're able to clone. Guys, I was hip to cloning back in like 2003, 4. I knew about that shit. I even knew they was bringing, they could kill somebody and bring them back to life. I did a whole freaking paper on it in college. Like, man. And the problem is, man, for some of y'all, the problem is y'all are coming so late to the party that all the information and resources that you supposed to be able to dig up, it no longer exists. And to be honest, I'm probably your best bet at getting some reliable information, unfortunately. Because I have a plethora of knowledge from the stuff that I was able to research when it did exist. A lot of stuff that I knew and found it and was able to research, it's gone. A lot of it's gone. So your chances of getting to a certain level of enlightenment is very slim unless you go listen to other people that know, that have the information. Just like in a couple years, the stuff the damage that's been done to the human race is going to look like it happened through some other means. Unless you were somebody that was alive in this era and you saw the deception that was placed on people. And there's only so many of us. You see what I mean? And then they're going to wash the books. That's what they do. Same thing happened with the mudslides and the civilizations before. And then the story is told a different way. That's how this world works. Lies on top of lies, built on lies. And think about it. In the past, we talk about the swine flu. Remember that? According to people back then, it was the same thing. People wearing masks and crap, right? People were told they need to take a walk, right? People did it. I didn't come out, but 50, 100 years later, it's coming out through different, underground resources that them people that took the walk was people that was leaving up out of here. And they no telling how many millions. But think about it, they didn't have the same news broadcasts and stuff like they got today. So they couldn't strike the fear in people. They couldn't, the information couldn't get about how many deaths really happened, how many people actually took the walk and died. That stuff never got out there like that. But you got people that are, elderly people that have died as of late or died shortly after that didn't do that. But did anybody ever go back and really do a real scrubbing of the books or really go through and find out who died when and how many of them people actually took the walk back then when that stuff came out? Did anybody do that? Is anybody gonna do that? And if somebody did it, who would allow that information to get out there? What would that do? Think people be taking walks today? Probably not. But then again, you got people that don't think outside the box. Why? Because they've been programmed. I keep telling y'all, programming is stronger than in place. Some of you are a strong victim of programming right now, which is why you can't get on the same page as the rest of us, because you've been programmed. You've been programmed to believe certain things can't exist, certain things can't happen. You've been programmed to believe you need to take certain things to live. You've been programmed to believe that herbal remedies are the worst things that you can do. Like I told you guys, I just sent out, like I said, guys, we sent out the orders of the IV. You don't know what I'm talking about. Just put your brain to use real quick. Talking about the IV, the stuff that's been around for forever. That's been said to work on a number of different things. Okay. Also, man, I'm gonna have to see. Matter of fact, I might as well go ahead and tell y'all. I'm gonna be sending out the mattress earth as well, guys. I'm gonna be sending out that, which you're gonna really need to take a 10-day. I'm gonna be sending out the 10-day supply of that. So if you want to get the DE, which is good, I'm telling y'all, that stuff right there alone will rock those dang parasites to their grave. I tell you, when I first took it, man, I was like, what the heck? But I felt them things moving in my stomach. I was like, oh shoot, like this is real. So I'm gonna be sending out the DE as well. I'm gonna be sending out I'll be sending out the 10-day supply of that, which is basically what you need to take 10 days of that to get the parasites as well. Of course, along with the IV, which I can't mention that, but you know what I'm saying, right? The 10-day supply of the DE is gonna be $40. So $40. I tell y'all how to do it. Send $40, either PayPal or Cash App. Okay, PayPal, Cash App. Please, guys, send your name and your address. I've had too many people sending the payment, but they don't put either their name or they don't put their address, or they come back and I have to go back and send it. So it gets orders delayed, and that push everything back. Okay, so make sure you sending out that payment with your name and your address, so I can get the orders out to you in timely fashion. I admit, like I said, I done got bagged up. A lot of people been wanting it. Okay, may not have the access to get it or know where to go get it and everything else. I got them on deck. I get it out to y'all as soon as possible. I do have sent out majority, got most of them out this week. I do got some other orders that came in late last week and early this week, and a couple today. So I'm gonna get those out to y'all as soon as possible. Okay, if you want to get the mattress Earth, which I highly recommend, I think if you hit with both of those two products as I did in the past, you're gonna be good. Okay, you're gonna notice a change. Like I said, with the DE, it's gonna change. It changes your skin. It changes your digestive system. You're gonna get more energy and stuff. It also can clean your teeth and things. It do all kind of stuff, man. But it kills parasites first and foremost. Okay, y'all need that in your system. So if you already got the IV, cool. Get you the DE as well. And if you haven't got either one, get one. Okay, start getting the parasites out your system. Like I said, they've been putting them in your system, so you wonder why? Because they want you to get sick. A lot of your sickness come from that. Okay, health problems, talking about being obese and stuff, it come from that. Some of you got stubborn belly fat. It ain't belly fat, you got a sack full of parasites in your gut. Okay, them things is all over your body and everything else, man. You gotta start getting that stuff out your system, man. I didn't realize the importance of it until I did it, and then I start seeing all this stuff and how they was using parasites to basically mess you up. That's when I said, oh yeah, this need to be a normal regimen. But either way, what I was saying, guys, is too many people, man, have been so brainwashed in this world that you can't really talk to them. Some of it is the parasites too, because those things go up in your brain. Lord, it's too much. It's too much, man. But no, I just, people come in, man, and you always gonna have people, the naysayers, people that don't understand, people that are just like, this is their first, second video, this their third, fourth video. You know, they like, oh, what is that about? What is he talking about? I sound crazy. And I said it in the last video. I told you, I said, man, think of all the stuff that we have learned. I'm talking about just since I've been with y'all, outside of the stuff I already knew. You know, like, yeah, I started teaching you guys certain things that you may not have known, which caused you to go running, researching, but also that took both of us down a further journey, down the rabbit hole, to learn more and more and more. So we on another level, on top of the fact that we also, most of you, the reason you're here is because you still have some kind of spiritual connection and some kind of consciousness, right? So you able to put things together and process information. Some of you that it could be just because you didn't get the immunizations that you're supposed to get, whatever, or you didn't take the walk, but your mind is still able to function adequately. Everybody's cannot. That's what I'm telling you, everybody's cannot. All of us are not on the same level. We are not equally inclined. Okay? We're not equally intelligent. Okay? Understand that. And some of you may take offense to that. I don't care. It's your fault. If you feel like this is a shot at you, maybe it is, because maybe you need to get up off your ass and start thinking. This is what, like, you're required to actually think here. Like I just said, it doesn't matter whether the earth is round or flat. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, there's still another dimension. It don't matter if the other dimension is round or flat. It's another dimension. So let's get past that. That's not even important. What's important is that you start to learn and understand how this world works, understand how the outside of this world works, and where you go after this. People say, I'm going to heaven. Where is heaven? Where are you going? Where you going? You gonna take a plane ride? Huh? You gonna ride a bike? How the hell are you gonna get to heaven? People will just kill me, man. They don't even think. Anyway, man, like this video already long, man. Like I said, I was working last week. I was putting the other video together that I just dropped. pretty much worked through my birthday trying to get that stuff out to y'all. But unfortunately, they did something, man, to block it. And what I was saying is that you got certain beings, and I told y'all in the last 2 videos, I mentioned that the gatekeepers that make sure certain information don't get out. When you start hitting on certain things and putting certain things together, like I have been the whole time, you start being more of a threat, and they start coming after you even harder. So even today, like I went on my Rumble, and I'm like, what the heck? Where did my video go? It was gone again. Just went. Just wasn't working. Didn't make sense, right? So I told y'all with YouTube, they hit me quick. YouTube came and they took my stuff quick. Then I ran over to BitChute. All of a sudden, boom, they stopped processing my video. I couldn't get another video up. And they were supposed to be like, you know, the folks that you could really depend on. But then I started getting word from folks that was dealing with them that they was just like YouTube in a sense. That's when I ran the Rumble. Okay, I ran the Odyssey and I had some issues over there. I went to Brighteon. It was more so just like a format thing. They wanted couldn't put the gigabytes. You know, my videos be big. So then I went to Rumble, and Rumble had been cool, but Rumble had snatched some videos too, man. I mean, I don't know if y'all remember. It was 1 or 2 videos particularly. And I was like, man. But it's certain stuff. I noticed that you talk about certain stuff, they really kind of come at you. It seemed like when you talk about certain beings and stuff, to be honest with y'all, and then when you're dealing with cures and stuff like that, it's some shaky ground there, man. Some gray areas. I'll say that, man, to say the least. But anyway, I'm not gonna harp on that, man. I just wanted to kind of put it out there, like, because I get tired of some things, man. And sometimes I ignore comments. As soon as I see something they saying that sounds really stupid, I just ignore it. And sometimes I'll delete some comments. And when people talking real stupid, I'll just, block them or something like that. But for the most part, man, I think majority of my audience, they get it. They understand the lies that's being told. They understand we got to break free of the matrix, because that's what this is. We went in depths about that, man, from possession and, people having second and third rounds in this realm, so to speak. We've talked about getting out of here. I've showed you videos from more spiritually inclined folks that can kind of give you a little more detail. So
he was involved in a car accident, something he said.
A harassment technique seemingly inspired by science fiction is reportedly being used to torment Chinese people, specifically those who dare to stand up against government corruption. An unusual type of harassment has reportedly appeared in China, seemingly taken from the pages of a science fiction novel. Some claim the Chinese regime has developed a special kind of technology used to broadcast information directly into a person's mind. Known as electronic harassment, it's allegedly used to silence those who dare to speak out.
Wong Hai-bong says he's been suffering from what he calls electronic harassment for 12 years. He explained that it all started after he filed a corruption report in 2008. It was against then police chief of the Wuning County Public Security Bureau inside Jiangxi province. Soon after, he described being illegally detained, beaten, intimidated, and framed. Not long after that, he was involved in a car accident, something he says was staged. It left him hospitalized. He explained that since then, a device has been used to send information directly to his mind.
They observe my mind with the device and watch my movements. They also use the audio function to send voices to my mind, disturbing me round the clock.
Following his trip to the hospital, he says he began to suffer from the unique harassment.
They don't talk about anything else. They only talk about what I'm doing, disturbing me no matter what I do. No matter what, they'll make noise and talk to me.
Wong told us that sometimes he can hear 5 or 6 people talking. He explained that to him, it seems that they take shifts talking, insulting, and denouncing him, in an effort to spark his anger and make him talk back. According to him, the technology makes it so that only he can hear the noise. Now he suffers from symptoms like headaches, weakened eyesight, and shortness of breath. It's taken him 4 years to get confirmation about the technology from China's Ministry of Public Security.
The reception staff of the Public Security Ministry said that they indeed have this kind of equipment. It's very expensive. It's available in all police departments at the county level and above. The equipment can monitor your thinking and send voices to your mind and talk to you in your head. That's what they said.
Wong says the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, currently uses the technology to control tens of thousands of people. He says he's also spoken with other victims who describe suffering the same round-the-clock noise in their minds. But more and more victims have started to speak out. The CCP hasn't hidden its intention to weaponize mind control. Regime media mouthpiece Xinhua reprinted an article earlier last year speaking highly of the technology's military and wartime value. The article says the purpose of mind control weapons is not the destruction of an enemy's flesh, but of his will. It also says the new technology doesn't require a chip implanted in the human brain. Instead, electromagnetic waves, light, sound waves, smells, among other things, can be used.
So yeah, guys, this video ain't gonna be much longer, man. I just wanted to kind of hit on that, man, because I see more people coming in. I see people confused, and yeah, so a lot of people confused, man. They don't really get it. They having a hard time putting some stuff together. But you know, I think some things will become more apparent as time goes on. But I can't. Well, you know what? I can't even say that, because you gotta think, man. A lot of the reasons why some people can't put it together is because they aren't able to think anymore. They're no longer able to have independent thought. We are a problem. People that have independent thought. Remember back in the day, they were saying they was gonna mark the mailboxes for people that pose a threat to the system, because these people basically thought independently. The thing is, like, remember JFK's speech, guys. You gotta put it all together. You start putting it together, it makes all the sense. But like, if you can't, you're not thinking. JFK said there's a plot basically to enslave every man, woman, and child. What was he talking about?
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
The report is that the president is dead. The word we have is that he is dead, that he was shot by an assassin at the intersection of Elm and Houston Streets just as he was going into the underpass. The word we have is from a doctor on the staff of Parkland Hospital who says that it is true. He was in tears when he told me just a moment ago.
What? What? But when he was murdered, what was it? It was a conspiracy theory that he was murdered by our own government, right? Isn't it weird that he was speaking of a conspiracy? Right? Whatever happened to that conspiracy that he was speaking of? Did anybody ever disclose it after that? So that was a conspiracy theory that he was spitting out, and he ended up getting killed for, like all these other conspiracy theorists that I told y'all about that's been killed. And then it was a conspiracy theory that he got killed by the people that were trying to hide the conspiracy. It's starting to make sense. So the only thing you got from him was that there was a conspiracy to basically enslave every man, woman, and child. Okay? In secret, and it was being done by secret groups. He was like, there's no need for secret organizations. Well, who are the secret organizations that we know of? Illuminati, Freemasons. What have I showed you with them? They connected, they the priesthood. But who's running them? Okay? Another race of beings that are supposed to not exist, according to some of you people. But it's all in line. It's all tied to what we've been learning. But the conspiracy theory was to what? To enslave every man, woman, and child. We go a step further, we jump on board with Bill Snyder, who came out later, who said what? There was a race of beings that was going to release a biochemical weapon, right? On the human race. And they were going to depopulate. And he said by year 2029, he said, who knew about it? The military knew about this for 45 years and they told no one. Let that sink in. So I guess Phil Snyder was just making it up. And think about it. If these were just regular demons, why would they just want to kill people? Why would they just want to depopulate? What does a demon get out of depopulating? You see what I'm saying? You gotta start putting it together. But demon depopulates, like why you have to depopulate? You only want souls. Why are you trying to depopulate? You can get souls just by waiting for people to die. Or you can just collect souls by getting them to worship Satan. But no, they're actually trying to kill people. You see what I'm saying? Like, people don't think. People don't think. That's all I've been here to do, man, is help folks learn how to think. But it ain't so much of helping people learn, because some people, they will not learn and they cannot learn. That is the problem that we're faced with. A lot of people can no longer learn. They cannot think, they cannot process information because they have implemented things to make sure that you can, to make sure that you have no independent thought. From foods to chemtrails to fluoridation to nano particles, nanobots to parasites to the walk. You see what I'm saying? To frequency, to programming. All of that stuff has been implemented just to affect your brain. And you know what? It's worked on a lot of folks. Not all of us though. Not all of us.
it seems that they can do that. They can also, some of the other things are direct energy weapons that burn people, like has been, I mean, this is not new technology. This goes back to the 70s and 80s when the Russians did it with our embassy in Moscow. It was used, I think, in the Cuban embassy at all. So it's nothing new. I mean, this is simply the older technology that they're working on much more sophisticated stuff now. And it's like even using brain computer interfaces and how that can happen and how you can reverse that to have the computer feed the brain as opposed to the brain feed the computer. So, those kinds of things are being developed now too. And I think there's over 100 patents in terms of different energy type weapons and chip type technology, things of that nature. So, I mean, this has not been really investigated by anybody to any great degree or extent at all. And it should be. Because you cannot trust these people that down through, we've got the historical record of what governments have done with the technologies as they were developing them. They were using them on people unwittingly. People didn't know it was happening, and they were testing them just in the public domain.
What can you tell us about what you know about this technology, especially the level of nanotech and, again, mind control, this sort of thing?
I think in that field there are, at least publicly available, there are over 100 patents involved. Now that doesn't talk about some of the secret patents that if governments develop things behind closed door for the military or whatever, they can issue patents and keep them secret and not expose them to the public. So we don't know how much of there is there. But the idea is they've been working a long time on computer-brain interface and how you can read and interpret the electromagnetic signals from the brain and how you can basically use that to interpret, using software, interpret what people are thinking or what they want done. Well, but once you do that, you see the reverse is also possible. And that means you could have the computer talk to the brain. So once you get these chips, it's a two-way street, right? You can go one way or the other. This is now, and just think of being, very soon you're gonna have your toaster and refrigerator on the internet. So it's gonna be the Internet of Things. Well, you and all these people that are chipped then just become another thing on the internet. And so they're all set up to be monitored, tracked, and everything else through that, as well as their phones and everything else. That using it's a program called Treasure Map, is the NSA program to do all this tracking. And all it will be is another dimension to add to the tracking. But at the same time, it adds an interface where you can go both ways. So you can think of that central hive mind generating a message to everybody. This is the really possible in the future now. This is really dangerous stuff. You can set up people for anything you want to do. If you want to wipe them out or whatever, it's all possible.
We know the government watches us, but what about when government surveillance changes the course of history? In the 1960s, the US government started a program called COINTELPRO, or the Counterintelligence Program. The program was a series of secret FBI initiatives targeting activists, political, and minority groups. The American Indian Movement, the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, women's and civil rights groups, Vietnam War protesters, and anyone who got the government seeing red. Tactics used included infiltration and surveying and discrediting leaders and causes in order to undermine entire movements and organizations. But a lot of what COINTELPRO did was illegal, and it was officially disbanded in 1971. Though if you ask many activist groups and political dissidents, it still exists, just in another form.
Maurice Strong, a Canadian oil and businessman,
was the president of Canada's Power Corporation, pushing the climate change agenda in the 1960s. What you may not know is that Maurice was also a big power player in Tavistock's social engineering machine, and he held the Conference of 1980. He gathered occult think tankers, social engineers, cybernetic experts, and futurologists to discuss what they wanted to see happen in the 1980s. Here is a list for the Tavistock Conference of 1980. Women entering the corporate world, racially mixed breeding, the rise of Oprah Winfrey to normalize mixed marriage, youth rebellion, lesbian moms, the emergence of the fake green movement, the importance of meditation and Kabbalah to confuse Christians, the infiltration of hip-hop with gangster rap, and the New Age movement. What do you think, America? Were they successful in the 1980s? Amazing, isn't it? Do you think it is a coincidence that we started calling America the homeland after 9/11? And then we had Showtime with its popular show, Homeland. Did you know the word homeland comes straight out of the Communist Manifesto? These social scientist wizards understand you better than you understand yourself. They can profile any audience to accept lies, and they know you won't even question it. Unless, of course, you have broken your programming. When we think of the word intelligence, we usually think Mossad, CIA, MI6, but we never think Tavistock. Did you know that the majority of CIA and MI6 operatives get their training at Tavistock? Here is a list of what they learn: metaphysics, mind control, behavior modification strategy, ESP, hypnotism, esoteric knowledge, Satanism, and Manichaean theology, which is understanding the duality of good and evil. So how did this happen? Let's go back to the beginning. Our Tavistock story begins in the late 1800s with Arthur Sharep Spiridovich, a white Russian loyalist who was anti-communist. He was a Russian general and claimed to be well-versed in international affairs and predicted huge world events. In 1902, he warned kings and dukes about future assassination attempts, and he was right. He also predicted the First World War due to his knowledge about the hidden hand, in which he called a secret group of 300 Jewish families controlling the world events. Spiridovich emigrated to New York and wrote the book Secret World Government. He was found dead in his hotel room in 1926 at the age of 59 from suicide. So who was this secret group of Jews? Spiridovich was talking about the Committee of 300. Walter Rathenau, a German politician, once said, 300 men, all of whom know one another, guide the economic destinies of the continent and seek their successors from within their own environment. Dr. John Coleman was a British intelligence officer who gained access to a private British museum in London. It was here that Coleman discovered the highly classified documents of Tavistock. It angered him so much he spent 5 years reading and deciphering them, and wrote the book, The Tavistock Institution of Human Relations. Tavistock was secretly started in 1913 and was funded by the British monarchy, the Milner Group, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds. Tavistock's first purpose was to create propaganda to start a war between Britain and Germany. The motivation behind the war was inspired by Germany's rapid progress on surpassing Britain with economic power. Tavistock's second purpose was to infiltrate America by establishing a centralized bank, removing the gold standard, and the degradation of women and religion. This group's mission was to establish a complete breakdown of America's values to enslave us. To jumpstart the program, they hired Edward Bernays. Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud and was the father of public relations. He wrote 3 books, Crystallizing Public Opinion, Propaganda, and The Engineering of Consent. Bernays believed people were so irrational, and he believed so strongly in crowd psychology that he could convince masses of people to do almost anything. Edward Bernays was a Tavistock coach and advisor to President Woodrow Wilson. Wilson ran and won the presidency on the promise that he would keep America out of war. But with the infiltration of Bernays, he persuaded Congress to declare war on Germany and started the First World War. And on December 23, 1913, while all Americans were getting ready to celebrate Christmas, Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act, a law that created the Federal Reserve System, the central banking system of the United States. This led to effectively abolishing the gold standard. It was now 1933, and Tavistock's mission was already 50% complete. The Central Bank of America was responsible for the Great Depression and the global financial crisis of 2007. The Federal Reserve violates constitutional law because their policymakers are handpicked by people behind the Federal Reserve. Their meetings are secret, and there is no transparency to what they are doing. In 1932, an outspoken critic of the Fed, Louis T. McFadden, said, "We have in this country one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board and Bank. This evil institution has impoverished and ruined the people of the United States through its corrupt practices of the money vultures who control it." After the wars and the establishment of the central bank, America started to see moral decline through what historians call the New Morality, or otherwise known as the birth of liberalism. It was President Ronald Reagan that once said, "If fascism ever came to America, it will come in the name of liberalism." In the 20s, known as the Decade of Decadence, we saw the emergence of the flapper. Women were now cursing, smoking, drinking, wearing revealing clothing, and the term loose entered into the zeitgeist. This was a cause and effect directly from advertising and Tavistock music, which was pushed from these think tanks. In the 1930s, homosexuality and lesbianism became rampant, not out of any inner or latent desires, but as a means to shock the old establishment during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, the nation was numb. G.K. Chesterton, a writer and philosopher, said, "The moral, spiritual, racial, economic, cultural bankruptcy we are in today is not some social phenomenon, but rather the outcome of a carefully planned Tavistock program." The birth of MIT, the National Institute of Mental Health, the Stanford Research Center, and Wharton School of Economics were founded by Dr. Kurt Lewin, John Rawlings Rees, and Margaret Mead, arguably the best Tavistock social engineers of all time. Believe it or not, through the minds of these leaders came the brainwashing and propaganda for World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War, the 2 Gulf Wars, and every war that followed after. According to Dr. Coleman, the best kept secret and research that came out of Tavistock is the 3-system response. The 3-system response is how the population reacts to stress resulting from a contrived situation. A contrived situation is a crisis management exercise for world leaders. During a crisis, the first response is superficiality, which is the condition that manifests when a group reacts to a threat by adopting shallow advertising and slogans, which they attempt to pass off as ideals. Because the cause of the crisis is not identified, it leaves the population confused, and this phase can last as long as the controller wants it to. The second phase is called fragmentation, in which panic strikes and social cohesion falls apart. This results in society to break up into small groups, forming different attitudes and beliefs due to media manipulation. No one is on the same page, no one is getting the truth, and people become divided and fragmented from each other. This causes civil unrest, protests, verbal fights, physical fights, all caused by humans failing to identify the cause of the crisis. The third phase is called the fantasy trip. This is what Tavistock calls dissociation. In this last phase of the PSYOP, people have been so traumatized from the false flag event that they block it out or lose interest and all hope in humanity. This dissociation causes people to allow their liberties to get taken away, which ushers in communist legislation without a fight. Julius Caesar once said, "Divide and conquer." The powers that be have been using contrived situations and false flag events to shock and traumatize the world since the beginning of time. The JFK assassination, Waco, the O.J. Simpson car chase, Columbine, 9/11, Sandy Hook, the Las Vegas shooting, and don't even get me started on crisis actors. You can research that one. Do you think all of these shootings at schools and post offices, churches, concerts, and shopping malls were all just coincidence? According to Dr. Coleman, they were carried out by mind-controlled subjects who were carefully profiled, sought after, and put on dangerous mood-altering drugs like Ritalin, and controlled by DARPA computer programmers. Remember the national story about Molly Tibbetts, the jogger who disappeared for a month and was found dead in a cornfield from Iowa? At first, her alleged killer said he heard voices in his head, and the media had a heyday with him saying that. Now you cannot find that anywhere on the internet. Did you know Molly Tibbetts' dad was an architect for the Clinton Foundation? He actually designed the orphanages in Haiti. Also, do a quick internet search of killers who hear voices, and it is astonishing. I also recommend the book Programmed to Kill by David McGowan. When I think about what has happened to women in America, it is easy to see how it has been done in hindsight. From the flappers to pornography, we can see that Tavistock is really good at what they do. Remember 50 Shades of Grey? This was another mind control experiment that you could do in your own bedroom. The pain and fear that comes with sadomasochistic sex causes the brain to flow the blood away from its executive decision-making areas, the frontal cortex, which results in an altered state of consciousness in both the giver and the receiver, like doing cocaine. Do you ever wonder why certain books or movies get propped up? This always raises a red flag for me. Herbert Hoover was the 31st president of the United States. He was a Republican and was reluctant to become involved with the Federal Reserve. He believed in strengthening American business and believed that individual reliance on banks would weaken the economy. There is speculation from Coleman that his reluctance caused the stock market crash of 1929, which led America into the Great Depression, as a punishment to him and the American people. Sounds like history definitely repeats itself. Tavistock engineered the Cuban Missile Crisis as an attempt to sell the FEMA program to JFK. It was another rejection by a president, and Kennedy died that same year. Tavistock immediately signed a contract with NASA to ramp up public opinion on space. Ronald Reagan was another president who was reluctant to fall in line and had an assassination attempt on him. During Reagan's presidency, the Committee of 300 had a secret meeting to make sure that after this presidency, they remained in control with their candidates of their choice. So who was next? George Herbert Walker Bush. He was the former director of the CIA and vice president to Reagan. He was a member of Skull and Bones and was married to Barbara Bush, who keeps fetuses in jars in her home, and who is allegedly Aleister Crowley's daughter by a striking resemblance. Bush gave the famous New World Order speech following the Gulf War of '91. Next, we had a Rhodes Scholar, Bill Clinton, and then George W. Bush, and then Obama. With these presidents comes more social engineering, more false flags, and more corruption at the highest levels. John Coleman said, "We have been brainwashed into believing that communism is the greatest danger we Americans are facing. This is simply not so. The greatest danger arises from the mass of traitors in our midst. Our Constitution warns us to be watchful of the enemy within our own gates. These enemies are servants of the Committee of 300 who occupy the highest positions within our government structure. The United States is where we must begin our fight to turn back the tide, threatening to engulf us and where we must meet and defeat these internal conspirators. Trump campaigned hard, and one of his messages was, "Drain the swamp." This is exactly what he was talking about. He wants to remove the evil from within the government. Out of all the presidents, Trump has been the most difficult for Tavistock. He was discussed in a couple of Tavistock journals written by James McKay, the director for Tavistock Coaching. In 2016, he expressed concern that based on Trump's personality, he would be very difficult to coach. And in 2018, he discussed how Trump is like a trickster. Is this a confession that Trump hasn't fallen in line, but has been steps ahead of the committee? Another modern goal of the Committee of 300 is the emergence of the technotronic era. In the book, Between Two Ages by Brzezinski, he says, the technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. That's creepy. And who is his daughter? Mika Brzezinski, the talk show host on Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough. This is the guy Trump accused of murdering one of his staffers. The book by Brzezinski also discussed future human cloning and robotoids, people who acted like people and who seemed to be people, but were not people. There are psyops within psyops. Disinformation is everywhere. Corrupt people run amok in our government. This is Tavistock. Today, people are still distracted with what the elite call the bread and circuses. Baseball, football, endless Hollywood, and Social Security. Nothing has changed. The program is so good. If you were trying to explain this to somebody, they would think you are crazy. That is how good the programming is. Because after all, if you don't program your mind, someone will program it for you. And it makes me remember the Tavistock whistleblower, Spiridovich, the man who took his own life at the age of 59. Or did he? Did he know too much? In 2020, looking back, it seems to me that he knew a lot. I will leave you with that to do your own critical thinking. Until then, stay safe out there and don't stop questioning the world around you.
That's why we're a threat to the system, man. But the point of the matter, like I said, here we are today, and everything that these conspiracy theorists were saying has come to fruition. But y'all still don't believe, y'all don't want to believe everything they say, just little pieces that you want to hold on to. Okay. Anywho, guys, this video ain't gonna be long, man. It's a back-to-back, really, because I just dropped a video the other day. So this is gonna be a lot of me talking, really just this. So, you know, I might have put a clip in here. I don't know until I get done, man, because I sometimes want to show y'all something that makes sense or something. But I just wanted to put that out, man, because a lot of people didn't get the video on time, and then I had people come in and they was talking like really senseless about, you know, the whole situation. So anyway, guys, like I said, man, I appreciate those that have been looking out, man, and helped out. Those that send me birthday wishes, man, and happy birthday and all that, I appreciate you guys, man, real talk. Those that have been helping with the whole engine situation, man, y'all have been, man, a godsend, for real, you know. And it's unfortunate, like I said, at some point, you know, I was getting paid for YouTube and things like that, but when you telling the truth, you ain't gonna get paid for that. You ain't gonna get paid for that. You're gonna get blocked, censored, and you're gonna get criticized, and you're gonna get persecuted. You know, sometimes I think that's what I be dealing with, some of that mess. Anyway, man, y'all stay alert. I said we still looking out, because I do believe that they gonna hit us with something real soon. They're gonna try to impose some more lockdowns and crap. That stuff is right around the corner. Remember, the big one. They still waiting to drop that. They got it set aside. I believe it's the Marburg. I strongly believe that. But anyway, guys, y'all be safe. I'll catch you on the next video.
There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We've been fighting a long time. If you're listening to this, you are not alone.